Ever since Attack on Titan ended, I've been so infatuated with the ending credits. To me, it was perfectly nailed and gave this series so much more scope and realism to it. It's an ending that respects your intelligence and rewards you for paying attention. However, there is a small and sadly loud minority on Twitter and Reddit that seem to think, quote, it was all for nothing. Well, is that true, or is it yet another hyper overreaction from toxic people? Flock simps, Jaeger bombs, Jaeger-ists. If you enjoy Attack on Titan, Jujutsu Kaisen, One Piece, Demon Slayer, or Chainsaw Man, then this channel is for you. We'll be covering the newest episode of Jujutsu Kaisen where Sukuna goes one-on-one with Jogo, so you don't want to miss it. Anime is my passion, and so are you, so get subscribed and drop a like. Let's put all of this misinformation to rest. So starting out, I just want to say some things may seem blurry and low res, and that's just because Mappa chose to not make these moments full screen in the credits, which I actually think is really cool, but for the purpose of this analysis, yeah, sorry about that. So as the scene fades out from Mikasa waiting for her friends to visit her in Eren, we see Paradis as it currently is. The sun is about to set and we see a visual that looks so unnatural. The wall that surrounded everything is finally gone, and we can see just how it is all structured. Everything is really spread out, situated in certain areas, which is because the walls had everyone so spread out. But in many ways, this is the last time we'll see Paradis as it once was, or at least the closest thing to it. Though it's here, you finally realize, through all of the adversity, Eren freed Paradis. So the scene fades to show some people visiting Eren's grave alongside Mikasa. Now, I had to go do some zooming in here, but even at this level of zoom, the characters are clearly distinct. We of course see Mikasa, John, Annie, Peak, Reiner, Connie, even Armin. I find it very interesting that Peak would join them all, considering Peak never really knew Eren. I also do like how Reiner, Peak, and Annie are still together to show that even after all of this time, those may be the last three of the Titan Warrior program, but they're still close together and still friends. It's heartwarming to see that. As well, we see a flower from Eren's grave. Not sure what kind it may be, put in the comments below, but I found that an interesting detail. As seasons change, the tree begins to shed its leaves. It begins to get colder and more cloudy, as with no more leaves, we can now distinctly see Eren's grave marker as the light shines through the darkened clouds onto the wilting land below. But eventually spring blossoms again, giving a sense of renewal. This time we once again see Mikasa and John, but it seems they've brought with her a little girl based on the long black hair. It seems as if Mikasa and John are together now and they're visiting their friend's grave to show their child and for Eren to see maybe she's finally moved on from him after all of these years. After all, just before this, we saw seasons come and go in the blink of an eye through many years. We then see the two leave, as John wraps his arm around Mikasa as she carries their child. But as a theme with this scene, once again, the seasons change, but in the background, we see that there is now some structures being built on Paradis, and the entire island is now expanding, building more as the population grows and technology advances. Case in point, we now see a black car next to a newly installed fence. Outside from that car, we see something quite interesting. Mikasa and John have now grown old together, as Mikasa now uses a cane to walk, and now their children have grown up and their children now have their own children. All of the adults are wearing hats of some kind. The one on the left is a woman with seemingly her son, and the other two below are with their children. You can only surmise that these are the children of, well, the Titan Warriors and those that are left. Then it fades to actually one of the harder to watch moments of the credits. I even cried, don't worry, we all did, where we see flowers on a gravestone. I originally thought this was Eren's, but considering the context and the fact that both have the same kind of flower, I think this may be Mikasa's grave, as after living a very long and arduous life, she is laid to rest wearing the same scarf that Eren gave her all of those years ago. Even in death, the one thing that Mikasa will not part with is that scarf. After all, how could she? Eren is the man who meant the most to her after all this time. Editing C-Man here, the AOT wiki tweeted out what is actually on this gravestone and what it means. It says, "Here forever, rest peacefully, my most beloved, my dear, 854. I'm not crying, you're crying. After Mikasa's death, the rain falls on Paradis. The island continues to expand even after one of their heroes has passed on, as time waits for nobody. Not a dead man, not a dead woman. Many decades have passed as peace continues to prosper. Now Paradis has industrialized. The fence is now replaced with a brick wall. Paradis now has smokestacks, skyscrapers, office buildings, and is generally moving into the modern era, something that this island was starved of for so long. Now to the right of Eren's gravestone is a black, sort of hard to see rock, but this is Mikasa's gravestone. She chose to be buried right next to Eren. The time they spent together under the tree, they will now spend together eternally. Time passes even more. Paradis is thriving as satellite towers are now being built that climb even taller than before. The road to the tree is now paved. Now the tree begins to grow into the sky as the city begins to rapidly change and new structures appear, like, for example, bridges and buildings. We get a short burst of a lot of details in just a split second. I had to go in and slow down the footage to a crawl just to get all the details, but here I was able to find some pretty cool stuff. But, basically it's just a bunch of people living their lives as the people there have turned this tree and this hill into a park of sorts where people just come to enjoy peace and live life with their families or loved ones. It's nothing too crazy or special, but it's nice knowing that below them are currently one of the most unkillable soldiers to ever live, and the man who at one point destroyed everything outside that island. Seemingly in the blink of an eye, Paradis becomes something even we humans in our world have not yet achieved. Peace has lasted for so long at this point that Paradis and humanity have become a futuristic society. Despite that, tensions grow as we see a helicopter destroyed over Paradis by 2 fighter jets. This is the catalyst for war, as now once more, Paradis finds themselves locked into battle. This time, it's a losing one as the city is bombed and torn to shreds. Eren may have put to end the cycle of war for thousands of years at this point. However, humanity cannot outrun what it was built to do. Even after long-standing peace, Paradis is destroyed as the city goes up in flames as missiles are launched from the very base of the tree of the man who would plunge humanity into a dire global war so many years ago. We then see that over time, this war has partially buried the grave marker of Eren into the ground, with shell casings strewn about, no doubt from assault rifles of some kind. But after all of that, it seems Paradis was successful to some degree in repelling the enemy as the city is left intact. But not for long. The opposing forces successfully launch missiles, destroying the city and ending Paradis once and for all. A tragic end, but one that isn't too surprising considering that Attack on Titan set this very scene up many seasons ago. However, even then, life finds a way as from the rubble, water flows through Paradis as nature has overtaken the gray, concrete slabs which were once modern marvels but have been reduced to nothing. The remnants of buildings from centuries past, leaving behind relics to a world that hasn't existed for so very long. Under a former building, which likely was a store for something, considering its window frames, we see a dog and a boy making their way through the cityscape. The dog runs ahead, for reasons unknown, so the boy gives chase. There, the boy and his dog come upon the final resting place of Eren and Mikasa. We get an up-close look at the boy, who looks very interesting. He wields a pole, has a canteen, looks like as well repurposed an ammo belt, a backpack with a bedroll and with some bells attached to it. His left hand is wrapped and on his right a bracelet of some kind, likely taken from a treasure he found. But most interestingly, he dons the same colored scarf as the one Eren and Mikasa did all of those years ago. He even has the same black hair as an Ackerman. What they gaze upon is a sight to behold. The tree on the hill has grown to be immensely tall, as birds flock around it, paying homage to one of the show's deepest symbolisms of a bird flying freely and looking up, gazing up at them. Finally, at the end of this very long journey, another one begins, as the boy, like Ymir Fritz once did, heads into the base of a tree, unsure of what exactly he'll find. The end. Some people will theorize that this is setting up a sequel to AOT, or that this boy is actually Eren, or that the bird was actually Eren, but keep in mind that all of this is not true. this is just another example of Isayama using symbolism to show that the cycle is repeating. So this is the ending as it's presented, but we can go even deeper than that. For example, this entire sequence is a callback to one of Attack on Titan's most important quotes, which is when Erwin said that there would be no end to conflict, that humanity will fight against one another until there is only one person left.
Peace between men will never be certain, not until our numbers fall to one or less.
Shit. Here I was hoping you might have something optimistic to say.
This was actually shown pretty clearly in the end credit scene as Paradis is basically wiped away from the clutches of war. This is the very thing Kiyomi also warned Flock against too, as he naively believed that he could put an end to all of the conflict, which is one reason why Flock would never succeed or was never a logical character in his world. As Kenny Ackerman also said, everyone is drunk on something, and that's exactly what separated Flock and Erwin. Erwin was right. On top of that, the whole criticism of the ending being all for nothing is a crock of you-know-what. Obviously, this has to be just trolls and doomers who have immobilized to try and hate on something because being different isn't allowed anymore. In reality, this criticism is just stupid and makes them look stupid, and if anyone says it was all for nothing, they likely weren't even paying attention to begin with. This is because Paradis was able to make it into a futuristic society likely thousands of years, if not hundreds, after Mikasa, Eren, and Armin's deaths. Also remember, Eren planned to only bring peace for his friends and family to make sure they lived a happy and peaceful life. Nothing more than that. That is all he wanted. But it actually ended up working for generations upon countless generations, which I'm sure Eren did not even expect. Just because, though, war did happen, doesn't mean Attack on Titan has this bad all-for-nothing ending, because it's not some Marvel Disney fairy tale closure where nothing bad ever happens again. That's just really unrealistic. As Isayama also stated in a recent interview which I covered, link in the cards here, Isayama wanted to have a realistic ending where humanity's issues and nature aren't really washed away. And because of that, it makes total sense for Eren's action to not only sustain the peace to the point where nobody even probably knows about what Eren or the Titans are, but to also have peace end at some point and continue on the human cycle of conflict. If anyone says otherwise, they are naive, unrealistic, and probably trolls, because I think this is a very simple concept that anyone can understand or get the very second they watch this credit sequence. As well, I've heard people theorize that Mikasa died, well, in YouTube-friendly terms, single. And this is because apparently the certain flowers they use in this death scene actually represents purity, which some see as virginity. And that's a good theory, but I don't know if that's what happened here, considering the fact that John and Mikasa would go to Eren's grave together, sometimes with a child, and, well, you get the point. There is just too much evidence pointing towards her being with at least John. As well, it seems when Eren said he wanted her to be hung up on him for 10 years, well, that seemed to actually be the case, or at least close to it. As going by the time lapse and sequence of events, Mikasa indeed was very single for a very long time. So I think he actually was able to achieve everything he wanted to achieve. Some other insane details you probably didn't notice, but the order in which the trio dies is very similar to how their races would go as kids. Eren would lead on ahead, always winning the race, meaning that Eren is the first one to die. Then Mikasa always closely behind, letting him win. She is the second to die. And then finally Armin, who was always just happy to be there and observe them and be a part of their lives, the third to die. Some people say that this old man is actually Armin. I find that somewhat hard to believe considering the amount of time that had to pass by that point and how old he would have to be. But it's just another reminder that Isayama very carefully and very subtly set up so many themes, motifs, and messages in Attack on Titan that pretty much all the major ones were really paid off in these final credits. As for that final scene with the boy, I think Hajime Isayama wanted to convey two things here. One, that the cycle of hatred and war will never end because that is just who we are as people. It's built into our DNA to create conflict. Because from conflict, humanity is able to separate the wheat from the chaff, or in disputes, find peace, etc., etc., etc. It's a crucial function of humans, and Isayama is telling us that no matter what, no matter how long peace may last, we all got a bullet with our name on it. It's only a matter of time before we level it all back to nothing and start over to only repeat the same processes, cycles, and mistakes we all have done before. Because after all, we're all children of sinners and saints that did the same things we did many lifetimes before us. Nothing new. However, while the ending may be so dark, grim, and existential, I do as well think it tells a very hopeful message all in the same breath. Despite our differences and disputes, humanity can come together under one message of peace and make it last and prolong it for generations. We very much have the power to turn islands that could barely fight the plague years before into futuristic societies in the blink of an eye, considering the scale of the universe. Look to our own world. We can verify what Isayama is saying is true because, let's say, in the 80s we had AIDS, now it's kind of been defeated. In the 1920s it was the Dust Bowl, you know how that went. In the 1800s, the Civil War, and the 1700s, the birth of America. I can keep going, but I think you get the idea. The point is that throughout history, we've been able to achieve so many things, and now those things that were before harsh nightmares seem nothing more than dreams of the past, and some people don't even know what any of these things are. I mean, what the fuck is in America? But either way, AOT's ending tells us that no matter what people say or any popular opinion may be, there is always a possibility for change and hope. It will never die, just like war will never die. So for the very same reasons, we are built as humans to hope and strive for something better tomorrow, for our sons and daughters, or for those who are yet to exist. It's the whole reason we war in the first place. The end credit scene of Attack on Titan is telling us basically that no matter what, humanity will keep moving forward and fight every step of the way. Whether it be fighting each other or fighting together, humanity will die trying, all as one. Okay, I can't believe I'm actually about to say this in a video, but thank you all so much for making my ending explained video a huge success. As of November 18th, it has hit 1 million views. This is the very first video I've ever done in my 13 years of doing YouTube on this channel that has ever gotten such a response, and I can't thank you all enough. This was only a possibility in my wildest dreams, and I had actually given up on this so long ago. Not only that, but we're closing in on 90k subs as well. We are close to 100k. Can you imagine that? I thought I would never get the plaque button. Maybe I will. I mean, who knows? So I thank you all so much for what you have done for me. To be honest with you all, I just love you guys and gals so much. So thank you for this rare achievement. I can say above all else that I actually did something truly extraordinary on YouTube, and I'll cherish this moment for as long as I live. Thank you all so much. Financially support the channel by becoming a patron, where you'll gain access to my mega One Piece arc reviews and first impressions. Thank you all so much for your love and support over the years. Bye-bye.